Hello, everybody. Gary Laubach, John Leone. We are indeed behind the mic, and the good news is we are on the campus of Lafayette College, something that hasn't happened in months, in fact, over a year. But we will be here on campus at Fisher Stadium on Saturday at 12:30 when Lafayette entertains the University of New Hampshire in their third football game of the year. I'll start with the Leopards before we get and look at, obviously, New Hampshire. John, Lafayette 0-2, but there are different kinds of 0-2. Our opponents are formidable, obviously. We go up against an Air Force team which just knocked off Navy, in fact dominated Navy in that ball game, and a William & Mary team. These are two outstanding teams, and I feel as if we've actually played quite well in those ball games.
There's no question about it. You know, in last week's media luncheon, the mood decidedly after the Air Force game was very upbeat. Mm-hmm. They went toe-to-toe with an FBS team. They moved the ball well. I thought they were stout against the team that leads the nation in rushing every year. So you could sense that. I'll be curious this week what the mood is around the Lafayette locker room and team, because I think there were some missteps against William & Mary. Mm-hmm. The defense played great. A fluke score and then a tip ball for a pick six. Otherwise, it's virtually an even game. So I think they've got to shore up some things in terms of mistakes. John Garrett always talks about those game-deciding mistake plays.
It's not unusual for the Patriot League to play a brutal independent schedule. Lafayette certainly is going to be one of those with their schedule, as, of course, next week they have the University of Pennsylvania. This ball club comes in 2-0, 27-21 over Stony Brook, 26-14 in their last outing at Towson. Two very good football teams, and they have beaten them both. John, their coach is a legend, Stan McDonald, 22 years at the helm. He now has 100 wins in the CAA. Only Andy Talley and Jimmy Laycock can say that they've done that. So obviously his experience, he's been around, not only around the block, he's been around the city, the state, everywhere. So they come in certainly well prepared.
Yeah, and how good is the CAA? Again, two of Lafayette's first three teams are against the conference, the CAA, that boasts 5 teams in the national top 25. So John Garrett has lined them up against the best in the country, and New Hampshire is going to be a formidable opponent.
Well, how good are they? Well, at quarterback, they have a youngster. He's only a sophomore, 6'1", 195, Brett Edwards. But he is so consistent. He's so good back there in the pocket. 72% completions, closing in on 500 yards already. He's got 5 touchdowns. You can't get much more efficient than Edwards has been.
He's thrown the ball 54 times, Gary, and not close to an interception yet. So they don't turn the ball over through the air. Mm-hmm. It was interesting to me that although their run-pass balance is clear, they spread the ball around. As you said, they're efficient. They have put the ball on the ground 4 times in the 2 games, losing 2 of them. So you don't want to throw the ball against these guys. They intercept. I mean, they've got 6 interceptions in their first 2 games.
And they don't run the ball very badly either. They are 2 best running backs, average 10 yards a carry if you combine their 2 numbers. Carlos Washington at 5.1. Dylan Laubach is up there too, as he's at around 4.3 yards per carry. So stopping the run will be a challenge, of course, for the Leopards. They throw the ball well. Brian Espinette, Sean Coyne are their 2 leading receivers, and they're both very good at that. So what about the Leopards? Well, they're struggling to run the football, and that's an understatement.
Yeah, there's no question about it, Gary. They haven't had 50 yards rushing in the first 2 games. Again, understandable against Air Force. I think if John Garrett were here, he'd tell us he expected a little bit better against William & Mary. Now, that said, when you get behind, it's not totally fair to the quarterbacks. You become predictable. You have to put the ball up in the air. So those passing numbers, at least in terms of the mistake numbers, can be skewed. To your point about being able to run the football and be more unpredictable on offense, I think that's been part of the problem for the Leopards.
And certainly an experience at quarterback. We knew that coming in, as Rent Monty and Aaron Angelos had not thrown a collegiate pass in their career ever until this season. So they're learning the game, and you learn that against independent teams before you get into the Patriot League. Lafayette has played New Hampshire before, John. They're 1-6 overall. In fact, the last time was kind of a historic one because it was in the NCAA playoff.
Yeah, I remember that game up in New Hampshire, and it was a milestone for Lafayette. But I think once Lafayette got there, they saw the difference. And I think that that's where John Garrett wants to take this program, and it's one reason why he has constructed the kind of schedule that we see today. So I think Lafayette Leopard fans have to be patient. They've got to see big picture, and they want to see progress. If you listened or watched that game down in Williamsburg last week, for 3/4 of that game, Gary, it was a dogfight. Two great defenses, and I'm not sure we've talked enough about Lafayette's defense. This defense is good.
Well, you lead me right to where I wanted to go, as you often do, as the defense has been indeed formidable. Nobody more formidable than Major Jordan, Marco Olivas. They've been outstanding. The defense, again, the pressure's on them to kind of carry us until we find our offense.
And that makes sense because, I think offense by its very nature, with timing and scheming and so forth, takes a little longer, especially when you have new quarterbacks into the system. And John Garrett is going with 2 so far. But I want to make sure that Major Jordan's okay. He was dinged up last week a little bit. He didn't play the fourth quarter. He's key to this defense. But, of course, Marco Olivas and Malik Ham and Washington, and the list goes on and on. This defense can hold its own. If John Garrett can get the kind of balance, the complementary football that he talks about, and as you say, our defense can hold the fort until the offense arrives, I think the Patriot League season is going to be very good.
Well, speaking of longer, it has been a longer period of time than we ever expected before we would get back to Fisher Stadium. We'll be there Saturday afternoon, 12:30, against the Wildcats of New Hampshire. Join us.